woodshop guy and the therapist both told me I'm a leader, which gave me a feeling of empowerment. They both used empathy to make me feel seen and heard. That let my guard down. That made me trust them. That made me willing to listen to them. I was a sponge. I was receptive. Yeah. Then they used that to empower me and tell me, Frank, you are a leader. But even that, I still needed my feet held to the fire.
Sure.
Welcome to the Fuel Hunt Show.
What's going on, Eagles? Welcome to the Fuel Hunt Show. I'm Joey. I'm here with my cousin and co-founder, Drew. How you feeling?
Happy to be here, cuz.
Happy to be here. And today we are joined by one of the few, a friend, Frank Paul Vignola. He's a men's coach, author, entrepreneur. I mean, we can just go on and on.
That's
right?
about it.
That's good? Yeah. Okay, that'll do it. We were having some conversations beforehand about superpowers. I was going to add a superpower in, but we'll save that for later. This is not your first time at HQ. I would like to say welcome to HQ, but it's not your first time here, right?
It's not my first time here. No, it's my third time here. It's changed a lot.
Yeah.
It's developed a lot, but this is my first time meeting you guys. Yeah. And it's crazy because I feel since I first came here, I felt connected to you guys energetically. You know, I sat in your desk.
Yeah, you did.
I put on your jacket. You know, I've worn your merch, you know, and but yeah, this is the first time I get to meet you both face to face. So yeah, it's awesome, man. I'm feeling super grateful.
Welcome, dude. Welcome.
Likewise.
Thanks, brother.
Likewise. Now that you say all that, I get it. You're like, first of all, we're energy guys, so we get we get that vibe, vibration, literally. Yeah. But you did. You sat at my desk.
I did, man. Yeah.
You felt the threads.
I put on the varsity jacket. Like, I was in your space. Like, I'm telling you, like, when I come here, I get excited.
Yeah.
Whether I get to see you guys or not, when I come here, I'm like, I came here the first time, and I was like, I like the energy of this space.
Yeah.
Good vibes, man.
You could feel it.
Yeah, there's, a lot of hard work done here for a very long time. You know, they used to dye and spool thread here, yarn here, which lines up with, like, what we do.
Yeah, very
much.
At
least on the gear side.
Right.
But also on the growth side. Like, when we first walked into this space, it didn't look like this. The floors were stained with oil from all the machines up here. You know what I mean? Tools everywhere. Like, a space where things were created that I like to believe made people more confident, more powerful, you know what I mean? And all of that by, what they wore. And we were talking about that a little bit before the show, too. So I want to talk a little bit about what you do and what you do for men specifically as a coach. The coaching space, I will say, and I'm sure you probably share this, there are a lot of people in the coaching space that I don't think get it. They don't understand what they should be doing for the people that they're leading and coaching, and that's not you. Like, you stand out to me in that sea of coaching or coaches as someone very different, someone unique, a servant, someone that cares specifically about making men better humans so that they can in turn take that better and make others better too. So that's kind of like what I get from you, the energy that I get from you. I would like to talk a little bit about like I said, what you do, but also where you've come from. Sure. Because I think that people don't hire coaches, or at least they shouldn't hire coaches for the coach. They should hire coaches for the results, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of coaches miss, because they haven't come from a dark place or a challenging place and then emerged as something better. They haven't taken that journey. They've taken a course on how to be a coach.
Right.
And again, that's not you. So let's rewind all the way back and talk about, where you're from, what was growing up like, and then follow that thread to where we are today.
Into the kind of coach. All right, so we'll start at the beginning.
Yeah.
The hero's journey.
Yeah.
So mine was young. Mine started really young because I grew up without men. I grew up without male connection. I didn't have brothers. I have some male cousins that I talk to more now as an adult, but I wasn't close with them growing up. I had no grandpas. Yeah, and I had a tumultuous relationship with my dad. So I grew up yearning for male connection. You know, you and I were peers. We're very close in age. So you remember, you know, the 80s, the Ninja Turtles, like they were my imaginary brothers. And you follow my stuff, so you've probably seen me talk about them at least once or twice. But they really were my imaginary brothers. But because I didn't have male connection and I didn't have somebody to model myself after, and I didn't have that brotherhood, I feel like there was a part of me that was undeveloped.
Sure.
I grew up with feeling like a deficiency in my masculinity. I wouldn't have been able to call it that then. I wouldn't have known that that was what it was. But I look back now and I realize that inadequacy that I was feeling, you know, that there was a combination of a feeling of yearning, of like, I want this kind of connection. I feel alone. I don't have it. And then also a feeling of inadequacy. And sometimes it would even turn into anger and rage when I would see guys that had these attributes and these characteristics, even in grade school, that seemed so organic and natural. And I didn't have them, and I didn't know why. And I just assumed that it meant that I wasn't going to have them. I didn't know that it meant that I just never had that seed nurtured because of my environment didn't nurture it.
Yeah.
So
you start to think that like those qualities that you were seeing in others, it's just nature.
That's
like
right.
that's how those people are. And when in reality, I mean, Drew believes that it's nurture.
It's nurture.
It's nurturing. So your father was present in your life, but it sounds like, you know, you had a tumultuous relationship. So the masculinity that you did have in your life as a child or as a teen, it just wasn't maybe a healthy version, or it wasn't the version that you envisioned it should be, right? So that's...
It was. Hold on. I want to answer that specifically. So go back for me 1 second.
Yep.
Ask that again.
So
what wasn't what I envisioned it?
Yeah. So your father, you didn't have much male connection growing up, right? But your
Right.
father was in your life.
Yes.
So I've got to imagine that there was some masculinity
Yes.
in your early life. However, it was not the type of masculinity that you envisioned for yourself, or maybe it just wasn't,
Gotcha.
you know, the version that you wanted at the time or
All right,
needed at the time.
I got your question now. Okay, yes. So my father's role in this was important, and to your point, he did have a masculine energy for sure. The relationship was tumultuous because I think what he saw is that because I had sisters and I had a lot of female energy around me, my grandmother, sisters, I was very close with my mother, I had female cousins that I connected with. I didn't have the natural masculine inclinations that I think a lot of boys my age had. I just didn't have them. And I think that my father, who at the time was in his 30s and maybe a little bit emotionally immature still, he probably didn't know how to help me cultivate that. And maybe he didn't know that it was nurture either. Maybe he thought it was nature.
Sure.
And maybe he thought, you know, I was a reflection of him and made him feel bad about himself. I don't know. I can't get inside his head. But rather than helping me develop that and validating me, he would often use ridicule.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't fault him for it today. I don't take on the victim mindset. It is what it is. You know, he did his best, but he would use ridicule. He would use shame, and it didn't work. It wasn't effective.
Surprise.
It didn't inspire me.
Surprise.
Yeah. You know, so no, his masculinity, there were actually a lot of really good qualities and attributes that my father had, but unfortunately, because he rejected me, I think I naturally rejected him in return.
Yeah.
And not just him, but everything about his character.
Sure.
Which ended up hurting my masculinity even more.
Sure.
Because then I was rejecting masculinity.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize it.
So that's kind of what I wanted to get into. Like, you know, like I said before, you're not a guy on the internet that's taken a course. Like, you've lived this, had to develop the tools, had to literally craft, if we're talking about the title of your book, right?
Yeah.
You had to literally craft your own masculinity, and that's why you're here now helping other men do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just 2 points for me. The first one, I would like to say that the Ninja Turtles were also a 90s kid thing.
Yeah. Oh,
so
yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I can relate with Ninja Turtles.
And you
Okay,
also
all
can
right.
relate to
We
the
were
fact,
giving him
like,
shit before about
Oh, you
the
were?
generational
Okay.
differences.
I was still my changing Superman changing the
and then you had mentioned that the characteristics that some of the other kids had in school
Yeah.
that you didn't. Could you elaborate on what exactly you were seeing in other kids that you felt like you didn't have?
Yeah. So even like one thing that stands out to me was confidence in sports. in being in anything like physical fitness.
Sure.
And but it felt like it was rooted. It wasn't that I wasn't agile. It wasn't that I didn't have the same abilities, because as I got older, I learned that I'm actually very coordinated, and I'm quite good at anything physical that I set my mind to. So again, it was the nature nurture thing. In my head, I thought naturally I was not coordinated, but really what it was that when they were doing something that was inherently masculine, that felt organic and natural to them because they watched it growing up and they did it with their brothers growing up or their father, it came more naturally. They did it with confidence, and therefore the mindset matched everything else, and then the body listened, and then it felt like they were very good at it, and it looked like they were very good at it. So I perceived that as, oh, I just don't have that. I just don't have that trait. I'm not good at it, nor do I have the confidence.
What's crazy is I think kids still think that nowadays. Like, I know I did when I was a kid, and I'm sure my daughters and Parker maybe even, like this is a thing with kids. They see it in other children, whether it's just general confidence or the magnetism or charisma or success in sports, and they're like, oh, that's not me.
Of course.
Their mind, the inner critic, is the thing that's intercepting. Like, they may have that physical ability, but the inner critic intercepts it.
It is interesting too. We talked about this on the Nick Shaw podcast, but, and I'm no men's coach or life coach, but I have thought a lot, and one of the things that constantly comes to mind is that the hierarchy for children and youth and adolescents seems to be based around physical ability in sports. You know what I mean? Like, I was always an obese kid growing up, and I got picked last all the time. And I felt like that at the time at that age was where I ranked in the social hierarchy. And the kids that all the girls liked and everything that seemed to work out for them all the time were all the athletic kids that were first in captains of the sports teams and first picked.
Think about it. Like, I'm no scientist, right? So let's put that out there, even though I know the solar system. So but I'm no scientist. But think about it. Like, kids, their brains are still developing, right? Like, of course they're not ranking themselves on like how cerebral they are. They're ranking themselves on how physical they are, because their brains in themselves, they don't have the words, they don't have the cognition sometimes to put that together. You know what I mean?
And they don't have the intuition or the understanding to be able to discern nature and nurture. And recognize, like, oh, this is something that can actually be developed.
Sure. That's one of the things with, like, my daughters. I try to kind of get into their minds early and start developing their minds early, because I recognize that. Like, my kids, they're athletic. They come here, they run amok, they wrestle each other and shit. But, they're not, Parker's a specimen compared to them. You know what I mean? They're not doing burpees and stuff. But I've tried to really pour into their minds to help them understand and short circuit the inner critic and become a little more cerebral at a younger age. So then inevitably, when they do start feeling this way, they have some more tools on their tool belt. You know what I mean, to manage it. And
that's we're kind of getting off track with parenting, but that's the hardest part. And Joey and I put a lot of effort into being dads and raising our kids to be strong, resilient thinkers and free thinkers. And that's the constant dichotomy I struggle with, is like, okay, I'm making him do burpees and get strong and be athletic, but I also have to develop his mind and ability to think. I can't just be like, do this, because he'll do everything I tell him to do. But is that really what's going to make him a strong, resilient leader?
Both. I mean, I think both systems.
I'm trying to do all of them, but you never know.
They both go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I think the thing that if I had to pinpoint one thing that I lacked that wasn't physical, that would have changed everything for me, it's self-belief. I can remember times in my head right now where I threw a ball and it didn't go in the basketball hoop, or it didn't even hit the rim, and I would give up, and I would make a joke out of it, and I would try and be like, oh man, I suck, as a kid. That's the lack of self-belief. If the self-belief exists, then you just look at that as like, oh, I just missed that one. That's all. It could happen to anybody.
This is practice.
Yeah.
This is what achievement looks like. A bunch of trying.
Yeah.
We got a little off topic with parenting, but also not, right? Because I think it plays like a pivotal role, in all of us. And I agree with what you said, like, and to lean into what you're saying, like, hey, look, I don't know, I'm the physicality thing, the mentality thing, I'm trying to do my best. Like, of course we are. Like, we're doing the same thing our parents did. Like,
oh yeah,
doing the best we have with the tools that we have. The thing that benefits us now where we're at is the fact that information, and connections are much freer and easier to establish, and information and data easier to digest and freer. So we can make better decisions. You know what I mean? We have more
100%.
tools, I would say.
For sure.
Not even the decision thing. It's like we just have more tools.
Yeah.
You know?
We didn't even have the internet. Yeah. Yeah. So
Exactly.
there's a lot more accessible to us now.
Yeah. For
But
sure.
but yeah, man, that's where my biggest struggle was. But then I became my biggest problem after that, because the way that manifested into I had a lot of passion actually, and a lot of fire inside me, but it wasn't being used for good because I didn't have self-belief. So it was turning into rage. And then I had behavioral issues, so I got expelled from Catholic school in 3rd grade. I had a lot of struggles, during that time. And by the age of 14, I was in a mental hospital. Yeah, and then from there, I was incarcerated on and off for the next 4 years. Shelters, group homes.
Group homes.
Yeah. Residential centers, juvie, all of it. And it was my hatred and my anger and my rage most of the time went inward towards me through self-harm. Also, a lot of that had to do with the simple fact that I didn't believe in myself to be able to harm other people because I wasn't a confident kid. So it all usually was internal and towards myself. But yeah, it ended up getting me in a lot of trouble. I did drugs. I overdosed on heroin when I was 15, and I ended up in these programs. But those are also where the journey took a turn. Right. That's where things started to change, because the last program that I was in was an all-boys facility, and something shifted there.
Yeah.
Something started to change there, because even though initially I was really uncomfortable and really terrified, actually, because I was like, wow, now I'm around a bunch of guys. I can't hide. My insecurities are just highlighted, the comparison, all of that. But what I learned is that when I was thrown to the wolves and my feet were held to the fire and I had no choice but to be in that environment, I was literally incarcerated. Something came alive in me. Something started to shift. And it was a combination of that and also the right mentors. But not only did I learn that I could do what a lot of the guys around me were doing, I learned that I was a leader, which came as a really big surprise to me.
Yeah.
And things started to change there.
I think that when you first recognize you're a leader, it does come as a surprise. I think that's everybody. It comes as a surprise.
Yeah, it's like, me?
Yeah, me? Wait, me? I
Yeah.
think the best leaders are the people that inevitably say that. Like when they realize it, they're like, well, this can't be me.
Right, yeah.
Because you have so much, you described it as the fire, but you have so much inside you and you need to give it.
Yes.
And you just don't have the words or the actions at the time. And when the words and the actions start to fall into place and you start to let that out for, in a positive way to serve others, you're like, wow, like this was here all the time.
All the time.
And I was using it for all this effed up shit.
Right.
And now, so then you have that conflict of identity and you're like, this can't be me.
It's the words, it's the tools, and the biggest one, I think, for me and for a lot of people that I coach is the self-belief.
Yeah.
We have to start believing what we're capable of. And then when that happens, then we really become unstoppable. Yeah. But yeah, it was a couple people got in my head in the right way. There was a woodshop teacher, I talk about him in the first chapter of my book, who he was just like, hit the nail, Frank. And I didn't want to, because I was like, this is guy stuff, this highlights my male inadequacies, and
I'm gonna swing the hammer. I'm gonna miss.
Yeah, all of that. Yeah.
I'm gonna hit my thumb.
And I did all that shit. But he never lost his patience. He never judged me. He was different. He's like, hit it again, Frank. Hit it again. So long story less long, I finally got it where I was able to sink a nail in one hit, and it was like, I think the way I described it is in my book is that like my virility made like the coin sound in Super Mario Brothers. It was like something shifted inside me. It was like, holy shit, I did that.
Yeah.
So
and for like a whole bunch of different reasons, what like a powerful metaphor like that, that being the thing that like, you know,
that was
unlocked
it
for you. Yeah.
That was the turning point. Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you. So you described a journey that got super, super painful to the point of incarceration before, I'll say, you changed, but before you had that breakthrough moment.
Yeah.
And I think in life, that's what happens to many people. Like, it gets super fucking painful, and that's what forces the change. That's why we say prefer pain, right?
Yes.
It doesn't have to be that way, though, because if you have a good mentor or coach in your life, they can help you make the change before it gets too painful.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, a long-winded way of bringing it back around, while you were on that journey, did you have a mentor or a coach in your life that helped you when you needed it most?
Yeah.
So you've spoken about, you know, the wood shop director, wood shop guy.
Yeah, the wood shop guy. I call him the bearded lumberjack.
Okay.
But
how about, was there anyone else, you know, during that time?
Yeah, there was actually a female therapist who also, she brought a lot of empathy and she brought a little bit of the tough love, but I remember I always felt seen and heard with her. And she was one of the first people who told me, it was the two of them actually, who were just like, Frank, you're not a follower, you're a leader. I know you don't see it yet, but you are. And with the bearded lumberjack, he was everything that I thought I wasn't supposed to like about men. He embodied all of these masculine traits. He really was the bearded lumberjack archetype in so many ways, but he also had compassion.
Yeah, he also, it sounds like, had, and we didn't even get into this, like my personal story, we don't have to do that, but he also, it sounded like he had feminine energy as well.
Empathy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
empathy
that
and intuition. He saw me.
Yeah.
He saw me.
Exactly.
And he didn't make me feel judged. And when I learned later is he grew up having issues with his father.
Yeah.
It was like he looked at me and he saw that. And it was powerful, man.
Yeah.
It was powerful. And my coaching style is very much rooted in that experience with him, along with other things. Then I brought in my own style as well. But one thing that I always remind myself is, Frank, remember, before you get tough, make them feel seen and heard.
Yes, of course.
Is that he made me feel seen and heard first, which is why I didn't reject him, which is why I was receptive, and ultimately why he was able to say to me, get it together.
Exactly.
And I was like, okay, I can hear that from you.
Yeah, and that's the way I look at the balance between, you know, the divine feminine and, like, you know, masculine, or feminine energy and masculine energy. On the feminine side, it's seen and heard.
Yep.
But too much seen and heard is not a good thing.
Oh, yeah,
because you need action, which is the other side. You know what I mean? So that's like, and that's, I think, why, you know, what you're doing in the world and the content that you're putting out there resonates with me, because it jives with, you know, my story and how I see masculinity as a whole. You know, the screaming, hollering, you know, dominant type leadership or dominance, masculinity, that doesn't really resonate with me, because I think I just understand it at a deeper level because of my journey, you know. So it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. Some of the same words that you use, I used to describe, you know, that type of stuff. So the female therapist that you had, you said she gave you a little tough love every once in a while.
She did.
Yeah.
She did.
So again, a nice little balance there.
It was a balance. It was a balance. She had a lot of feminine energy, and she was very, very empathic. And that was something that really made my guard come down. But then there were times on that journey where I just needed to get it together. Yeah. And I wasn't, and she saw that. And that's, to your point when you say, you know, stepping into the feminine energy of embracing our empathy and using that as a tool to let somebody feel seen and heard, to kind of let their guard come down. That's great, but we can't rely on empathy. And I think she was doing that for a little bit, and she saw Frank's not changing. He's trusting me. He's listening. He's talking, he's sharing, but he's not changing. And that's when she called me in one day and she's like, we found another program. It's out of state. It's a 3-year minimum. That was a lie.
Yeah.
I found out later. Yeah, it was a lie. It was a tactic. Yeah.
Really?
And it worked.
I can
And it
imagine
worked.
because we,
Yeah.
we just talked about things getting super painful and pain creating change.
Yeah.
And that it was the threat of something
Scared the life out of me.
super painful.
Oh yeah.
And this is at a time where you're actually getting your feet under you and seeing some progress, right?
I had already been incarcerated at that point almost 4 years.
Okay.
I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
And I had started when I was 14. Like
Yeah.
I missed out on high school.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't go to a prom. Like I didn't have any of those experiences. So I was ready to get my freedom back, and she threatened it.
And you also had, at that point, you were making progress, right? Towards
Not enough.
not enough.
Not
but
enough.
some.
A
More
little
than the
bit.
14-year-old.
That's
did.
right.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
right. Yes, exactly.
So she threatened really to shake up a lot of shit.
Oh, she
Not
did.
just your physical location.
Yeah.
You know, we talk like, real estate location. Craig Ballantyne talks about when you're developing habits, environment, and how key that is.
Yeah.
A threat of change of environment was
Yep.
very smart.
Oh, yeah.
It was super smart.
Yo, she nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. She nailed it.
What
with
Just
that
like
one.
woodshop guy, but a different way.
When
Yeah.
did she tell you that?
Oh, we've been in touch since. It's been 25 years now since I was
Oh, that's
successfully
beautiful.
discharged. And
That's beautiful.
Yeah, she and I are still in touch. You know, at least once a
beautiful.
year. Sometimes a year goes by, and I'm like, man, it's been a while, Doc, and I'll send an email. But she always
That's
responds.
That's
We meet
cool.
for lunch or whatever. So
Yeah.
one of those days she was just like, we were sharing some stories, and this is when like after I was discharged, she's like, I could tell you all kinds of stuff now. She's like, oh, you were tough. I struggled with you.
Yeah.
And you know, that's when she told me, she's like, that place didn't exist.
Oh, that's
She's like, I made it
hilarious.
up. I was like, wow.
But it did it. It did it.
did.
I'm
Yeah.
assuming you were like, hey, look, I want my life back because maybe you started to believe what life could be for you.
I did.
Yeah.
So it was a combination. The woodshop guy and the therapist both told me I'm a leader,
Yeah.
which gave me a feeling of empowerment. They both used empathy to make me feel seen and heard. That let my guard down. That made me trust them. That made me willing to listen to them. I was a sponge. I was receptive.
Yeah.
Then they used that to empower me and tell me, Frank, you are a leader. But even that, I still needed my feet held to the fire.
Sure.
I still needed something to be at
Accountability.
stake. Exactly. Something has to be at stake in order for us to really want to change.
Sure.
And if it's not rock bottom, then it's got to be some other threat of something, the change of environment in this case.
Yeah.
So that was the missing ingredient. She's like, what's going to incentivize Frank? I've been kind. I've shown empathy. I've empowered him with leadership. What's next? Mm-hmm. It was that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's pretty much the style of coach that I am.
Yeah.
In a nutshell. Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, like you've lived this. You know,
Yes.
you went through the journey, and
Yes.
that's what qualifies you. And I'm not tearing people down on the internet. They're trying to make a living. You know what I mean? Like it's all
No,
good.
I get it. You know,
But
yeah.
I really want our community to know that you're here for a reason. You know,
Yeah.
you're on the show for a reason, and in my eyes, that's the reason. You know what I mean? You've lived it, and all of the tools that you fashioned manually by yourself over the years that you're giving to men. You know, I believe in. So
Thanks, brother.
Yeah.
I just to speak to that real quick, there was a moment where I saw all these guys, you know, and on social media, you know, when I started coaching 12 years ago, people made fun of me because it was like a what? A life coach? Well, it was a joke. And then now you throw a rock, you hit a life coach.
that's what I'm. That's
Yeah.
a good way of putting it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I took that from Johnny L. Sasser.
Yeah.
He's just like, yeah, you throw a rock, you hit a life coach. I was
Yep.
like, I'm using that because it's true. But one of the things that I noticed was that a lot of people were boasting science-based knowledge. And I got my initial response to that, believe it or not, was insecurity. I was like, oh,
I
I
believe
was
it.
like, I need to catch up. I was like, I need to read more books. I need to do that. Like, they have so much science-based knowledge. Now, to be fair, science-based knowledge is important. There's
Of
value
course, of
to
course.
science-based knowledge.
We've learned what happens when you trust the science all the time.
I'm getting to that. I'm leading up to that. But there is value
Yeah,
in
of course,
science-based
of course,
knowledge. And I've
of
done
course.
my homework. But what I've learned is that what you just described in me, and thank you for saying that, thank you for seeing it in me, that can't really be taught. No. You could read books.
Yeah.
And what I'm finding is that the willingness and the creativity and the courage that it takes to be able to look at your client and say what she said to me, yeah, I'm going to put you, you know, the acting skills that it took, the self-belief, the balls,
Yep.
you know, all of that, You don't get that from science books. No, you don't get
Book
that
ain't
from
gonna
books.
do that.
Yeah,
That's
coaches
life.
who are willing to say what other coaches wouldn't fucking dare say because they have so much self-belief because they've lived it
Yep.
are the coaches that are going to have the greatest impact.
And proof.
Yes.
The proof, because you heard it and it caused a change in you and brought
Right.
you to it. So if you're talking science, I mean, there's some science there. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? That's proof.
there is
you know what I
science-
mean?
there
That's
is
that's
some
proof
science
right
there.
there. It's an
It's like,
experiment. It's
boom.
proof.
Yeah.
It's proof. It's proof.
Caden, my brother was over yesterday. He's a nerd, for lack of a better word, and
He's not a nerd.
we were.
dude.
He goes to
He's
school
like
for
6'3".
biomechanical engineering. Like,
he's
There's
smart.
6'3" nerds. Donatello.
No.
He wasn't 6'3", but he was a ninja and a nerd.
but
Yeah, there you go.
I got my whole theory about how nothing is purely fact, and then he started to drop knowledge on me as in regards to scientific theory and scientific fact. Have you ever? I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with, which I wasn't familiar with.
Yep.
But that was a quick side note. But Dane and I were just talking before the show about books, like business books and personal development books, and I was a side note. I was like, there's literally like 3 to 5 books I can recommend you that I actually took things away from
Yeah.
and was able to apply to my life or business. But you could spend all of your days, like you said, reading books and gathering the knowledge. But we've learned our hardest, best lessons in business doing it for the last 7 to 8 years.
Absolutely.
Like that's where, and that's where the knowledge I give unto our people we teach on business is 96% based on things we've learned by doing and going through it.
100%. I hear you, brother. And this is something that, just a quick segue, is something that I was very excited to share with you guys that I tell my guys in the Iron Brotherhood and my clients, my one-on-ones. So, because you guys, you talk about the few, right?
Yeah.
So, 15 to 20% of people are interested in self-improvement, in personal development, self-development. They might have a self-help book.
Yep.
They might listen to a self-improvement podcast or an audiobook, and they take in the information, but they don't actually implement, or they're not consistent with it, but they're taking it in. 15 to 20%.
Yeah.
5% of people are the ones who put the books down and actually go and implement. It's not to say that you can't keep reading the
Is
books.
that a scientific fact or scientific theory?
No,
Well, I mean, you know, that's a good point.
yeah.
There's a little science-based knowledge, but this is a theory, to be fair.
studies have been done. It's the truth, though.
But it's 5%, or the few, are the ones who are actually going and hiring a coach, getting a mentor in their corner, and doing the work.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazier? That 5% makes up both genders. So considering that men are less inclined to do this kind of work, that 5%, it's probably 1% of the men. So I often tell my guys that. I'm like, do you realize that you are the 1%? And it's not 1% of people are doing it perfectly, to be clear.
Yes,
It's
yes.
1% of people are doing it. And you're
They're
going to
doing
veer.
it.
You're
Yes,
going to
of
deviate.
course.
It's about navigating back.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
that's par for the course is deviation. It's just navigating back and being willing to keep going. It puts you in the top 1% of men.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that's one thing that's been a painful realization for me is that not every day is your best day, right? Like you're not going to show up and be the best man, father, leader, business person. Like, well, I was with my wife a lot. She's like, oh, I didn't have my most effective, productive, best day. And I'm like, Amanda, you have to commit when you're in the trenches doing things like we are.
Yeah.
Not every day is going to be 100%. It's just not.
The powerful thing is the awareness. Like she can step back and say, or I can step back, or you can step back, or you can step back, or the crew can step back, or step back and say, okay, I'm aware of the fact that this wasn't like you're saying. I'm aware I deviated.
Yeah.
And now I can course correct quickly.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to go on a 3-day deviation binge and then make it 10 times harder to come back to path, you know?
But like you said, just doing the work makes you part of the 1% or 5%.
It does. It's and I think that for a lot of people, if we veer or if we deviate, some people feel shame. and some people feel like an imposter. Like, oh, I'm not actually this person now.
Yeah.
It's not true.
Yeah.
It's not true. It's just that's your built-in moral compass telling you, like, the shame that you're feeling is our built-in moral compass letting you know you're out of alignment with your integrity, brother. This is your alert.
You're off the path.
This is your notification.
It's a rumble strip.
That's right. So it's just a notification from your body and your brain saying you veered. Now just get back on track. But yeah, some people, if you get caught up in the shame cycle or the imposter syndrome, they throw it all out and they get a case of the fuck-its and they say, well, clearly this wasn't meant for me. I'm not meant
it's
to
almost
be.
like a cheat meal or
Exactly.
A
That's
cheat,
why I
Right,
can't-
right.
that's-
And then you go off into a binge cycle. Yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah.
why, you know, like we discussed this, right? We had like this whole like cheat meal thing. I said I don't do cheat meals. You know what I mean? Like,
I like my cheat meals.
for me, dude,
He doesn't,
like,
he doesn't like to go.
no, my thing is
identify them
like
as cheat meals.
90% of what I eat, like
Yeah.
single ingredient, like whole
Yeah.
foods, like I eat well. Do I deviate sometimes? Yeah, but I don't have like the fuck it day where I'm just like, I'm going to eat a whole pizza.
Right.
Like maybe I'll have like a slice of pizza like 3 times
Like
a month.
everything, like he's a moderation guy.
Moderation.
Having that one day, yeah, exactly. Like having that one day where I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to eat a whole pizza.
Yeah.
First of all, like physically, it doesn't make me feel good.
Right.
And then second, like worse, it doesn't make me feel good like on the inside, like in my soul.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you know what
I
I'm
get
saying?
it.
It
I get
also develops.
Like I look at it like soul and stomach. Like my stomach don't feel good, neither does my soul, so I'm not gonna
I
do
hear
it.
you, man.
It also
know?
develops a poor relationship with food. Like that's how I had been, especially because I had overcome GI issues. But it's like I only ate bad for like a meal or two, or and like I would never touch anything else like ever. So now I'm getting better at like just working different things.
I
and
do
it
think
just-
there's stages to
Moderation.
it.
Yeah.
I think there's stages to moderation too. Like for somebody that's dialing in their nutrition for the first time ever, eating whatever they want on a Sunday or a Saturday might be the play. Like I don't.
If they were eating whatever they wanted all week long,
Yeah.
then that's a great way to slowly start to dial it back to
Right,
something
right.
that's
So maybe-
sustainable.
And this is like,
But here's
You could-
let me finish
yeah.
real quick. Like I get it, right? So like I'm not like like cheat meal fine, like have your day, whatever. Like I'm not. It's cool, like it works for you if that's where you're at or that's your system. The thing that I don't understand, and maybe I should, because I just said if it's subjective, it's you. Yeah. Like look at The Rock.
he does cheat meals.
Right? Yeah, he does
Yeah,
cheat meals.
cheat-
And he'll
cheat
eat
days.
like 4 pizzas and like whatever in one day. And I'm like, bro, you're a dialed human being. Like, I know that doesn't make you feel great. I mean, maybe it does. I don't know.
Well,
But
when you got the extra kick that the Rock's got,
Yeah, well,
You think so?
I think it's subjective, like you said. I
Yeah.
think it's different strokes for different folks. So for me
Yo, I say
personally,
that all the time.
Yeah,
I
it's-
love,
but
dude,
it's-
different
it's
strokes,
true.
different folks. I
It's
say
true.
that. I was known for that in my
If-
previous
if,
life.
if you think about it like calorically or ingredients, like you're literally averaging out a cheat meal or cheat day to all the same amount of, you know what I mean? It's like
Calorically, you're saying.
effectively the
Calor-
same.
yeah,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
about
Yeah,
yeah.
about
But
the
like
same, yeah.
for me, Joey, like I could bury a pizza.
Yeah.
But I
Bro,
probably
I'm a
only
huge,
do that
I'm
like
a big eater. I can
yeah.
bury a pizza easy.
I probably will only do that once a month.
Yeah.
But
You'll do a whole pie though.
oh, I could bury a pizza, yeah, in one sitting. Yes. And I won't feel shitty.
Yeah.
I actually won't. You know, I try to avoid gluten. I try to avoid grains.
Yep.
But if I just do that one pizza at night, I wake up, I'm okay. I
Yeah.
start pounding water. I take
Yeah,
my
reset.
Truline for the inflammation,
Yeah,
you know, and all that
He's got
stuff.
like a
It's right
hangover.
here, bro.
Yeah, there you go.
But
the hangover protocol. The hangover protocol goes into
Wait,
effect.
it
You
goes
have
into
you have a
effect.
wellness shot in there?
Yes.
I love those.
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
God,
They're
I love those
delicious.
things.
I don't
I drink
love the
them just
kick.
because they taste good. But
That's-
I don't
also
love
the
the
effect.
kick in the
I
face.
love the
like,
pepper. The
Oh,
kick
you
in the
don't like
face.
that?
I love
I
it.
choke every morning when
What did I say
I
before the
love the
show? It's
bite.
like my
Sometimes I want to add more cayenne. Like I like the bite.
my esophagus is the weakest part of my body. I have esophageal issues.
Gotcha.
So it's the weakest part of my body. Since I was a kid, I've
Yeah.
had it. But I love that kick, man. I'm like, more
good.
cayenne. I'm talking to B. I'm like,
Good.
more cayenne,
Yeah.
baby, more cayenne. I
But
love
yeah,
it.
just to finish that thought, you know what it does? What does it for me? Candy. Like if I go and I have like movie theater candy, I'm like talking like rot your teeth type
Yeah, yeah.
sugary shit, the
Yeah.
garbage.
Milk
Yeah.
duds
You know,
or something.
yeah, or like
Nerds.
Starburst, nerds, you know, all that
Nerds
stuff
are
with
good,
like
man.
all the terrible dyes
Nerds
in
rope.
it, and just
Nerds
like,
rope.
I like licorice, so I do like Good and Plenty also.
Oh,
Yeah.
Twizzlers.
But,
Twizzlers.
Twizzlers are
The day after that, my body and soul are upset with me. That's why I say different strokes for different folks. I could bury a pizza, but
I did. I mean, like I said, like I did the same thing over the Thanksgiving holiday. Like my sister-in-law brought down a raspberry pie. I love raspberries. Like I fucking love raspberries.
No.
I've never had a raspberry pie before.
I'm just not a raspberry guy.
Raspberry.
Are you pronouncing it?
I would say raspberry.
I think
Do you say salmon?
Nah, I think raspberry is a funny word. Like it's how it's spelled.
Do you say February?
Nah.
February.
We're from Philly, so we say things weird. Like,
I'm Jersey. It's not that different.
Library.
True,
library. I can't even say I say library.
You say library?
Library.
the word I say
do
weird
say
that
library.
Amanda always makes fun of me for is comfortable. I think
Comfortable?
comfortable.
I get
Comfortable.
costume.
What do you get?
Costume.
Costume.
Costume? Oh, you had like a little
Yeah. So, and
Sounded like you're making it fancy. Costume.
yeah, I know, right? And wolf.
What do you dry
Wolf.
yourself with when you get out of the shower?
Towel.
A towel.
Towel.
A tail.
No, I say towel.
Oh, really?
But you know what? A friend of mine called me out on water because I used to say
it's
water.
water.
Yeah,
I would
water.
say water.
Yeah,
It's water.
And she's like, water? I was like, water. Sorry, water. And
My
I
son
practiced
said-
it for like weeks. Water.
To this day, I still get it. Like yesterday, I got it twice. Like people are just like, "What, dude? Like, what'd you say?"
Yeah, it's water.
First of all, I'm saying
What's
generally.
the hot black stuff that you drink? What do you call it?
Coffee.
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 It's not bad. It's not very Philly and very Jersey the way we say it, but it's not Staten Island or Long Island.
No.
That would be
Yeah.
a coffee.
Yeah.
It's almost like an extra syllable.
Yeah.
Coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee.
I get it all the time. Like that look you gave me when I say costume.
Yeah.
I get that multiple times a day. Number one, I talk fast, but then also I have
Talk.
the accent.
That's
Talk
one,
fast.
that's one thing we do too.
Yeah.
Last one on that, but the on a roll lunch meat on a roll is called what?
Sandwich.
Hoagie.
A
Well,
hoagie.
no, I can do
Oh, a
sandwich.
hoagie?
Well, it's on a
Sandwich?
roll.
A hoagie.
Hoagie.
That's like how.
A hoagie.
Yeah.
So, long story short, I crushed in a sitting, half a raspberry pie, and I'm down with that. Like it's all good. You know what I mean?
I'm good
That
with
goes
that.
good
against
with
your morals, though.
No, because I know that like after that, like it's out of the ordinary for me. But after that, I'm not gonna feel shitty.
I do
Because
find
it
that
doesn't make my body
A lot of
feel
the healthiest people I know are really just doing it in moderation. Like Amanda's dad is like 70 and like kicking.
Yep.
And he'll speaking of licorice, like
Yeah.
after dinner, grab the Twizzlers out of the thing, have two, and then put them back.
That's my like
That's
I can
crazy.
do that.
I can't do that.
I can do
I'm
that.
just not that.
Like when my
guy.
daughter sells Girl Scout cookies, I could have like one. I could go over to the tag-alongs box and I can have one tag-along
Let
and
me
just put
tell
the
you,
box away.
When
I
we
can't.
when we
Yeah.
get Everly's Girl Scout cookies,
Now I will say, if
I
it's
bring
been
them
a-
home from the office, and Amanda Parker and I sit there and finish all three boxes.
they'll text me. It'll be like 10 o'clock at night. They'll text me and they'll be like, "We're so sick. We feel so sick." I'm like, "Where are the cookies at?"
No,
Like, in my
no
belly.
self-regulation,
I'm taking
no
pictures of,
restraint.
like all of us on the couch just crushing every box. Like we got.
Now, I will say-
when it comes in, we gotta get it out ASAP.
Now, I
Yeah.
will say, if it's been a particularly stressful day at Fuel
You'll
Hunt,
have two.
I will eat the sleeve. Like
Oh,
I'll
okay,
eat the
you'll eat
sleeve.
the sleeve.
Yeah.
But it's
All right.
something I'm going back to the awareness thing. Like I'm aware of. Like
Yeah.
I'm in a state where if I deviate, it's going to be a hard left, bro.
You know, even having these
I'm not
kinds
even
of
going to feel the
conversations.
rumble strip.
Right.
It's just going to be hard left.
Like
You know what I
even
mean?
having these kinds of conversations, to me, it's so a testament of what we just talked about of being the 1% or the 5%, however you look at it. It's that there's such a level of consciousness and intentionality, even to when we decide to cheat, is that there's a little bit of a guilt. There's an intentionality to it of like, well, I'm going to cheat, but I'm not going to throw caution to the wind and eat until I'm sick. I'm going to choose to have this much, and then I'm going to veer back.
I believe it comes down to having goals and things for like a greater purpose,
Greater vision.
a greater purpose, and
Compass, vision, yeah.
Because we know that having those things are going off the rails so poorly or so bad is taking us further away from where we actually eventually want to be.
where we want to go. Yeah.
This is a topic or a piece of what you do that I wanted to touch on.
Good.
What we're talking about, and I didn't even have to call it out because it came up naturally. I think we're sitting in these directors' chairs, and we're on the show, and we're talking about what we do for the world, and I think people literally sit there and say, kind of like what you said as a young man, and I said as a young man in grade school when you saw qualities in other people you didn't have. That's just not me. They're quote unquote perfect. They've got it together. We are far from it. I mean, I'll speak for myself. Far fucking from it. But one point I wanted to make is it's not the perfection, it's the intention.
Yeah.
You know, you have to abandon the perfection thing and lean into the intention thing. That's what it's about. You know what I mean? We don't have it all together. Yeah. But one thing that we do have is the ability, the intention to get it back together when we get off the rails. You know, when we feel the rumble strip or when we take the hard left.
Yeah.
You know, and I wanted to hit on that because it humanizes. It humanizes.
I was the word I was going to use.
Yeah, it humanizes us.
I look for opportunities to humanize myself in front of my clients.
Yeah.
It's funny, rather than masking it, even if I feel bad about it, I'll see it as an opportunity to humanize myself to them so that they could look at me and be like, oh, that's attainable. Yep. That's not something that's unreachable.
Yeah, for sure.
That's attainable, you know.
Sure.
I look for moments to share that vulnerability.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do it a lot in the Iron Brotherhood.
Yep.
Is I'll come in and I'll be like, guys, I deviated this week discipline wise, or I deviated from this virtue this week. I need to step it up with this. And a lot of times I'll get like, Frank, it's okay. And I'm like, I'm not looking for I don't need that.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. I appreciate that.
Yep.
But no, this is an opportunity for me to take ownership and to lead by example and to let you guys know I fucking do it too, man.
Yeah.
Like I deviate.
Yep.
So yeah. For sure.
Yeah, so I wanted to make that perfection thing. Go ahead.
Just before, I know we're coming to the end, but could you walk us through maybe a story or two of someone that maybe came into your program and the transformation they've changed and how maybe they're not the finished product, but what in their life changed?
And if I can sneak something in, you mentioned Iron Brotherhood a couple of times, so why don't you just let the community know what the Iron Brotherhood is, and then and then if you don't mind.
The Iron Brotherhood is everything from my journey now in a framework, in a 6-month journey. You know, that was I don't want to say it was missing, because my one-on-one coaching journeys are fucking transformational, and we've done some amazing work together. But the one thing that was missing from my services and my list of things that I want to be able to provide as a men's coach was the brotherhood component. Is I was like, I need to be able to give this to other men, because this is part of what inspired me. This is part of my journey and part of what created the shift or the pivot into turning things around. So when I created the Iron Brotherhood, I took the things that, I looked at everything that I've seen in my clients, my one-on-one clients over the last, decade plus of working with guys one-on-one. And I've looked at the guys who had the most success and who went the furthest. And I looked for the parallels in those guys. And I narrowed it down to 6 key virtues. And I also looked at the boys' home. And I looked at what were we taught in the boys' home. And it all aligned with the 6 virtues. So the Iron Brotherhood is a 6-month journey for men, 10 men to be exact. I don't go over 10. So it has a feeling of community, but you're not going to get lost in that community. You're going to know everybody's name. You're going to know their story. You're going to be seen and heard. You're going to be a part of this.
Sure.
And unlike other coaches that I've seen, like mastermind programs that they do, where they say, it turns into a bit of a brotherhood, where brotherhood is the byproduct of the work. Brotherhood in my journey in the Iron Brotherhood is equally as important and emphasized and facilitated as stepping into our maximum potential and the virtues that we follow. So guys in the midlife season, typically between 35 to 55-ish, in that midlife season when we could start to stagnate or when we could start to feel like we've hit a plateau, when we're busy, we're husbands, fathers, entrepreneurs, and we still want to reach our maximum potential. Guys who are in that season, guys who identify as men, guys who want to reach their maximum potential. Those are the 3 things that you need to have in common in order to be a part of this. So then you have those shared values, and then I facilitate brotherhood through support, accountability, camaraderie, vulnerability. There's a lot of goofiness, because I could be very, very tough in this group. They would tell you that I'm very intense and I'm really confronting and tough, but I temper that with a lot of playfulness. Like the way we were cutting up a minute ago, like I intentionally bring a lot of that into the Iron Brotherhood. So it's this really beautiful balance of guys connecting through camaraderie and banter, but also being like, I could share my deepest, darkest secrets with you. They inspire each other. And man, it's fucking magical to watch.
Yeah. You can't really, at least I believe you can't have one without the other. Like you need that like playfulness.
Yes.
Right? Because if you don't have that, you're not going to get vulnerability, which means you're not going to be able to share the deep, dark secrets.
Yes, and it's what I wanted. I mean, selfishly, I will admit, it's what I wanted growing up, you know? The first Ninja Turtle that I connected with was Mikey.
Yeah.
For anybody watching, you just go do your research on the Ninja Turtles if you don't know the stories. But Mikey, you know Mikey. Mikey was the goofy one.
Yeah.
He was the one that I was like, oh, man, that's the one I really want as the brother.
Yeah.
You know, but then I was like, it can't just be Mikey. You need to have the smarts and the science-based knowledge from Donnie.
Yeah.
You need to have the edge and the willingness to hold your fucking feet to the fire from Raph, and then you need to have the leadership and the empowerment from Leo.
Yeah.
So
I identify with Leo.
Yeah.
What's that? You identify with Leo?
But my son, he identifies with Mikey.
I was a Leonardo and Donatello. Like those two were they were like my guys.
It's crazy. I did not like Leo at all growing
Really?
up.
Yeah?
Because
Yeah?
I didn't think I was a leader.
Yeah, this is
He
true.
was the one who I felt I could identify with the least. And now he's the one that I identify
Yeah.
with the most. As I get older, it's actually becoming more Splinter.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Splinter,
now I'm
yeah.
just like, you know, it's the,
You're like
you
the
know,
real,
Yeah.
the real life.
the master of the
Let's
dojo.
just like give a shout out. Who are the creators of originally? I forget the.
Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman.
Okay, let's give a shout out to them.
I
who
love
are-
you guys. Thank you so much for creating. I don't know which camera. I think it's this one.
yeah.
Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. Thank you so much. I love you guys.
Shout out for creating something that's so deeply layered.
Yeah.
That was entertaining, but also impacted people.
It was
Yeah.
that was like one of the first movies I had Parker watch like as a kid, like
Yeah.
that the real life one. Where
Oh, the live
real one.
action?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
That was a
'Cause
classic.
they're still coming out with cartoon versions. They're not.
I know.
They're not
Not
the
as-
same.
not as
Not
good.
the same.
Yeah.
Not the same.
It's different. It's
Did you
different
ever
time.
see? It is a total side quest, but Workaholics. You ever see that show?
No.
No.
They had a whole Ninja Turtles episode.
for real?
It was so and they're all like putting bandanas on. He's like, I'm Leo. He's like, you're not fucking Leo. He's like, you're a punk bitch, Danny.
That's smart. We had a conversation. I don't think we spoke about this out loud. It was on maybe our L10 or Marketing War Room. We had a conversation about like 2 months ago about licensing some of the Ninja Turtle artwork to do fightwear.
Really?
To make like a rash guard and stuff. So
Oh,
we
man.
this is actually probably a sign that we
yeah.
should do it.
Oh,
I'm in on some
man.
Ninja
There's
So
some
you're hearing
alignment
it
here.
here first. So
Yeah.
we were like just talking about like generally like some licensing stuff we could do that was like
Yeah.
fun. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And the Ninja Turtles just like immediately popped into my mind for so many reasons. It just aligns with obviously the martial arts stuff we have going on, and also
it, bro.
like the personal development and like the shades of identity that we have also in our
Yes.
community.
Yeah.
So it was like a natural thing. So I think it's a sign to like bring that back and have that conversation.
But could you run us through like a success
Yes.
story?
Sorry.
Yes,
A lot of side
absolutely.
quests.
Yeah.
man.
Absolutely.
That's good though.
Oh, man. So just one. Which
Yeah,
one?
or
do
you
I
could
wanna-
pick. Yeah, I mean, you could pick a couple.
A few standouts.
a few
Or just in
standouts.
general, I know they're all different journeys, but what the transformation that takes
Or even
place.
a story.
Yeah.
You know, somebody
I'll,
that.
I'll share a little bit that I think will impact the guys listening and watching. So, one, I've mentioned 6 virtues, but I never rattled off what they are. So that's important. The framework, it's one virtue that we focus on per month. So month 1, the virtue is, of course, brotherhood. We lead with that, which is all about support and camaraderie and accountability. Month 2, discipline. That's where we get into morning routines. So in month 1, guys are messaging me saying things like, I've never felt brotherhood like this before. These are men in their 40s and 50s, you know, and some in their 30s who are like, I've never felt this type of support before. I've never felt like I was part of a tribe in this way. So that's some of the return on month 1, is that it really forges these bonds that are meaningful. They're meaningful. They're rooted in values alignment, and they're inspiring these guys to push themselves beyond what they would have done believed that was possible for themselves. Month 2, discipline. All the shit that we talked about with like routines. So like meal plans, fitness. I've seen guys in this, you know, we're 4.5 months in right now in the current Iron Brotherhood, and there's one guy in there who has made such a physical transformation.
Yeah.
I mean, it is remarkable. I mean, he's so much leaner. He's so much more muscular. We do before and after photos.
Nice.
So we share that with each other. We get vulnerable with each other. Month 3, courage. One of the most impactful months. One of the most impactful months. It may be hard to see this through the lens of positive because it's such a transition, and it could be devastating and incredibly painful. But one of the guys asked their partner of 20 years for a separation.
Wow.
And this is something that had been a long time coming, unfortunately. And this is a guy that I worked with actually individually on and off for about 4 or 5 years. Wasn't until he was in the Brotherhood and he felt the support of his tribe that he felt like he had the courage to go forth with it. And what's crazy is that 2 months later, somebody else in the group said, I'm moving out, to his girlfriend of 5 years, and he said it's not aligned, and it hasn't been for a very long time.
Yeah.
So courage has been an incredibly impactful month. Month 4, strength. It's crazy. We were just talking about that. Whoops, sorry guys.
Oh, you're good. I did that about 25 times on the last recording. Yeah, I was beating the shit
I was
out
doing
of
so
this
good.
mic.
I was like so careful with my water bottle. I was like,
It's like the Matrix. It was like we were talking about.
Right. So month 4, virtue is strength, but strength does not just mean physical strength. Strength really represents, I think, the external embodiment of the men we're becoming, which you and I were just vibing on a little while ago, and how important that is. The internal work is important, but guess what? So is external. What we wear affects how we feel, affects what the world sees, the intentionality that we put into how we groom ourselves. Yes, physical fitness and strength, we are built stronger than women. Why are we not optimizing it? How about our voices? Those are instruments. We need to be heard. For people who want to have an impact, if you haven't learned how to enunciate your words, how to not drop off the end of your sentences and mumble, this is important. I could get Jersey on you, but I also know how to clean it the fuck up.
Yeah.
You know, so these are all things that we cover in month 4. Month 5, temperance, emotional regulation, checking your fucking ego. And month 6 is integrity. So integrity is all about what we talked about with purpose. It's about feeling whole. It's about making sure that on this journey, you're not just doing it for you and for the sake of self-mastery. Self-mastery is incredibly important. Your masculinity is incredibly important, but you have to serve a purpose.
Yeah.
And we haven't gotten there yet in this group that we're in, but in terms of the transformations, I gave you a couple based on the first few months that we've gone through, and it's been really, really inspiring.
The journey itself, I mean, so smart. So smart. Entry point is community and support. Exit point is purpose. And right before that exit, there's a checking of the ego.
Yes.
So it's you're building, you're making harder decisions, you're becoming more capable, the ego's growing, ego's growing. Then it's check the ego.
Yes.
Then it's like, this is how we're going to manage this,
Yes.
all this masculinity or awesomeness that you've
Yes.
built over there. And then now the exit, the off-ramp.
Totally,
purpose.
bro.
Yeah.
And that's
I
when
get
I
it, man.
also have I do Ninja Turtle references in the beginning. I say, guys, I'm Leo. We're all brothers.
Yeah.
So it lets them know I'm also a brother, but I'm the leader. You know, and it kind of sets the tone of like, I
that's
want
even
to
like
forge this brotherhood with you guys.
That's a playful way, but a very effective way
They get it.
to do that. Because
But-
otherwise, you have the chart with, okay, I'm the bear, you guys are a wolf.
Right.
Like, this is the thing.
But I do say that later.
Yeah.
So in month 4-ish, or once we get into
Then you
temperance
get into
around
the
the
other
ego,
archetype.
that's when I say, guys, I'm Splinter.
Yeah.
You're all Leo. I'm turning you all into Leos now. I'm like, that was the secret. I didn't tell you guys that when you signed up, I wasn't just going to help you reach your maximum
You're
potential.
building leaders, not followers.
I'm building you, and I want to build a society of great leaders.
Yeah.
And you guys have what it takes. You just got to keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then integrity is the last month, which is this is your purpose.
Yep.
Go be an exemplar. Go exemplify this to your kids.
Sure.
Go step into being show up more as a husband by having a purpose outside of your role as husband and father, because they're going to watch that and they're going to see that. Your wife is going to be more attracted to you. Your kids are going to look up to you. So yeah, man, it's a journey.
Yeah.
It's a powerful journey.
Yeah, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I wanted to touch on, oh man, I lost it. I wanted to touch on something with, playful question, right?
Yeah, go for it.
So how many of your guys or did all of your guys, were they all familiar with the Ninja Turtles when they came into the Iron Brotherhood, or did you have to give them homework? So
No, I didn't have to give them
Okay,
homework,
yeah.
but I actually, what I did do is for the next round of guys is I fleshed out a Ninja Turtles archetype model so that they can see how each turtle has a different personality type and how that applies directly to the work that we're doing and Brotherhood. So now they have something. But no, I think everybody, because of the generation, everybody had a sense of who the Turtles were. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good. The fact that obviously there's a lot of synergy between what you're doing, the Iron Brotherhood, and Fuel Hunt, both starting with community, right?
Yes.
And one other point just came back to me. The thing that I lost that I wanted to make was, you mentioned earlier that you've kind of built something for yourself, right? Like you're kind of like, well, selfishly, I've built this because I needed this type of thing. But that's also how we started out.
Yes.
We were like, well, selfishly, we're going to build this community of people that are like us, that believe in hard work, because there's not many left. We need to strengthen society. We need to put society back on track. And it lines up perfectly with what you're saying. Hey, look, I built this brotherhood because I needed it.
Yes.
And the output of it is the impact that I want to have on society.
When I watch you guys work through social media, even though we never met in person before today, energetically, I watch guys who are so anchored into their purpose and so clear on purpose. And I know that purpose is a combination of wanting to serve mankind or society in some way and your own personal experience, that you're filling something inside yourself as well. Whether it's a hole of some kind because of a trauma or a void or whatever, that something is being filled in you, and then you're using that to go have an impact. So I know that I'm never going to have necessarily the big brother that I wanted growing up, but what I can do is I could be the big brother.
Yes.
I could create a brotherhood for other men, and it's why I like you guys so much. Is you guys do the emphasis on community and the alignment in our virtues, but also I see two guys who are just so anchored into purpose, and that's just a huge part of my work. Is guys come to me your age, our age, I should say, because we're peers. And they're like, I don't feel purposeful. And I'm like, okay, let's help you get there. But it's not often that I stumble upon guys who are so clear on their purpose. So that's,
we,
kudos
like
to
you
that
said,
fact.
energetic. Like you can feel it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can feel it when you meet somebody, even if it's not in person.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You can definitely feel it. Do you have lightning round?
Yeah, I got 3 questions.
All right, do have a lightning round.
So just quick answers.
All right, let's go.
Quick answers? Okay.
Is there a book recommendation you'd like to leave the community with?
Am I supposed to temper my ego here?
You can decide to do
Crafting
what you want.
Masculinity Qualities Men Want and How to Get Them by Frank Paul Vignola. He's a great guy.
Where could you get that book? Let's just continue that.
Yeah, okay.
Where could
So
you get
you can
that book?
find it on Amazon, and then this year I recorded the audiobook version of it, which is also on Amazon.
Yeah, very nice.
I was going to say, when you were first speaking, I was like, he needs to read audiobooks or your voice, the way you
you've got it.
project.
Yeah,
I'm
you've
like,
got
or be a like a movie.
A narrator.
Voiceover.
Voiceover. Yeah,
like, it's
yeah.
like-
Oh, thanks, brother.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
The second question, is there a quote that you liked, your favorite quote?
Favorite of all time?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Or one that's hit you particularly recently very hard. Sorry,
This is going to sound so opportunistic, but I really, really, really do love Bedro's quote at the end of every podcast episode.
You're not alone. A million other people enjoy it too.
And, well, it inspired me to come up with my own as well. But like, I love his, and then another one is by Rumi, and I'm gonna butcher it, but it's something to the effect of, out beyond the fields of right and wrong, or out beyond the ideas of right and wrong is a field. I'll meet you there.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that.
And then, what is your definition of a strong man?
Somebody who embodies the 6 key virtues that I just gave you. Somebody who is willing to be the 5% and recognizes that it's not about perfection, that it is about determination, perseverance, and self-awareness, and recognizing when you've veered, when you've deviated, being tough on yourself, not too tough, getting yourself back on track, and embodiment of brotherhood, having community, and inspiring other men. Embodiment of discipline, which is not the same thing as motivation, which ebbs and flows. Discipline means you do it no matter what. Embodiment of courage, taking risks and facing fears. Embodiment of strength, physical presence, and voice. Embodiment of temperance, you're in control of your ego, you're in control of your mindset and your emotions. And finally, embodiment of integrity. You're here to serve a purpose. You want to live in alignment, you want to be a good man and have a strong moral compass, but you also want to impact others while you're here. That, to me, is the definition of a great man.
Throw this microphone.
Yeah, seriously.
Everybody throw these mics right on the ground.
That was solid.
That was the lightning round.
Yeah.
Thus concludes the lightning round. Where can the community find you? We know where we can find your book. Where can we find you, and where can they find an on-ramp to the Iron Brotherhood?
Okay, so first, my website, which is masteredman.com, masteredman.com. And right on the main page, you'll see that there's a button that you could click that will take you right to the Iron Brotherhood.
Okay.
So that's the best way to connect with me if you're interested in either one-on-one coaching or the Iron Brotherhood, is that website, masteredman.com. If you're interested in following, if you're not sure and you just want to learn more about me, or you want to do both, Vignolagram on Instagram.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, you see what I did there? Yeah. Slick, right?
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. This was great, man. I knew it was going to be amazing. I knew we were going to have some great conversation. I know we could probably go on for another couple hours, but we'll have you back on the
brother.
show. Maybe do another hour. Another hour plus. So thank you for coming through.
Thank you for having me, man. This was a fucking pleasure.
Yeah.
Finally, we got to make this happen. And if you ever do anything with the Ninja Turtles, please at least let
Listen.
me know, loop me in.
Yeah.
Listen, consider yourself in the loop. I don't think we're going to be able to make a move like that without, we're going to consult you first.
We're
going to consult you first.
Much
right?
appreciated.
On the design front, everything.
Yeah,
I love
hopefully
it.
your eye for design is a good one. So
Yeah.
What's that?
So hopefully your eye for design is a good one as well.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah,
brother.
yeah. We'll
Thanks.
definitely run the designs
Cool,
by it.
cool.
Now it's
I love it.
solidified. Now we got to do it.
Oh,
We
yeah.
put it out there. Now we definitely got to do it.
You didn't, no superpower?
No, I held off on the superpower and went with the strongman approach.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, all right.
I
We'll,
like
we'll
that.
be
Did you have a
impactful
Did you have a
instead.
superpower prepared?
I have to pull one out now because I can't use the one that I said before. I'll do
So
something
to give
goofy.
to give you some context, the few that are watching and listening, we had a conversation. I was speaking with a community member last week or recently about superpowers, and if you had one superpower, what would it be? And for me, I said the ability to not have to sleep, or at least 20 minutes. Take a 20-minute power nap, and that equals 8 hours of proper restful deep sleep, so that I could work all the time, drink as much espresso as I wanted to. That would be my superpower. So that's the context behind the conversation we're having at the moment.
It's just such a, this could be an episode.
Yeah.
I'm such a nerd about
know
this.
what?
I would
We
be
could
like,
do it,
if
yeah.
I wanted to be impactful, maybe the power to heal others. If I wanted to just be indulgent, it would be like the power to fly like Neo.
Yeah.
If I wanted to just be ridiculous, it would be maybe the power to have Olympic level blue ribbon farts on command.
Yeah, right.
That's, and then I can go
Was
on.
that an earthquake? Or
Right,
was that
right,
Frank?
exactly.
We just don't know. Yeah.
I can go on. Yeah.
All right, well, that's the next
All
episode.
right.
We might actually do that as a fun, lighthearted episode before we have you back, so you know that if it comes out, you're the inspiration
All right,
behind it.
good. Noted.
All right,
Noted.
let me leave the few with a reminder. Always choose hard work over handouts. Always choose effort over entitlement. Remember, no one owns you. No one owes you. You're one of the few. Now let's hunt.